Now, what's this all about? Joan looked back and forth between Miles and me, her brows knitting together in a tight, wrinkled line. She must have realized that what we had to say was important, as she wore suspicion as easily as she would her favorite party dress. I glanced at Miles, who lingered near the fireplace in the back parlor. Best not to worry her by the pair of us sitting together, hand in hand. Not that I feared she would worry, but I knew it would be best to explain ourselves before we appeared too comfortable with one another. He nodded his head, wearing the same echo of a smile he had since the moment I had agreed to marry him. Kneeling beside the fireplace, he tossed a few fresh logs into the hearth. The day may have been bright, but bitter cold pressed against the windows and swirled down the street outside. We had not yet been home 6 hours, and he had already taken up his butler duties again. I had managed to take a few moments to beg him to stop, when he reminded me that these matters still had to be taken care of, even if his name had been cleared. "Who else will do it if I don't?" he had asked me not long after we had walked in the door, rolling up his sleeves to tidy the front foyer. It disturbed me to see him work like a servant when I knew the truth, but nevertheless, I smiled at him. "If it's what you want, Nicholas," I said, "but there are few men who would bend themselves to such menial tasks when they know full well there is no reason for them to do so any longer." He picked up a stack of letters left near the door, likely by my father, and smiled at me. "I am not above it. What happened has changed me, and I believe for the better. No longer will I ever take any of this for granted." His smile grew. "When we have our own home, my dear, that will be soon enough to hire a real butler." "Perhaps we can refrain from bringing in a suspected murderer, though," I said, smirking at him. His laugh had drawn the attention of Mrs. Riley from the story above. Now Joan shifted uneasily in her seat, the same rather hideous yellow chair that I had hoped Mother would have forsaken in the purge of items that she and Father had sold after the market downturn. The attempt would have been of little use, however, as I could not imagine a soul purchasing it in the first place. "It is not bad news," I said, taking Miles's silence as a lead for me to be the one to start the story. "The furthest thing from it, in fact." My sisters straightened, looking at me. "Well, what is it then?" I looked back over at Miles. "Where should we begin?" "The beginning, I should think," he said. "Does this have something to do with your trip?" she asked. "Yes, in a way it does," I said. "The trip was a result of what has happened here, but I am getting ahead of myself. Really, this whole story starts the night I met Miles,